I'm Todd Jones, recovering from 30 years as a sports writer. Thanks for joining me as I sit down with some of the best sports writers of our time, who knew the greatest athletes and coaches and experienced firsthand some of the biggest sports moments of the past half century. We'll share stories behind the stories, some we've only told each other. Pull up a seat on Press Box Access. Okay, this episode is deep fried. Pour yourself a tall glass of sweet tea, kick back. We're heading down south with Ron Higgins. Ron is the tour guide you want if you're going to travel through SEC country. Not only is he a gracious Southern gentleman, he's been writing about the Southeastern Conference for more than 40 years. He knows the landscape, he knows the characters, and Ron knows how to tell a good story. This is going to be a hoot. Hey, Ron, welcome to Press Box Access. Ron, welcome to Press Box Access.
I am glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. I once read a quote of yours, Ron, that said, "My approach to writing is like I'm sitting in a bar and telling you the story." Now, I must say, as a child, the nuns taught me how to diagram sentences. I have the bruises on my knuckles from the ruler still. And the key word, if I diagram that sentence, is bar.
Yeah, you have to.
Sports writers and bars, right?
Yeah, sports writers and bars. You have to realize that I did grow up in Baton Rouge, and my dad did work at LSU in sports information. I did have access to Tiger Stadium on Sundays after home games, so I did learn about liquor bottles, empty liquor bottles. So naturally, I kind of got that idea. When you tell a guy a story in a bar, it's kind of just like matter of fact. Where the person can understand it, they laugh at it, and then they get it. There's no, it's more storytelling. And
right.
And I try to do that to where I tell a story where all demographics can read my story and understand it. Mainly, sometimes women don't like to read sports, but they don't like to read sports jargon. So I try to make it not so much about sports jargon, but the person in the story. And that seems to always work for me. Yeah. Yes,
and you've done it so well. I mean, you've done it for over 40 years, and I know you've covered some major events, Olympics, NBA Finals, but really you spent 40 years in the South, so what you're really best known for is covering the Southeastern Conference, football and basketball primarily, but also, LSU baseball and some other things. But football and basketball, but especially football, in the South, you worked 29 years in Memphis. You did 7 other jobs in 4 states? Is that right?
Oh, yeah. It was like I was on the run, actually. I mean,
what are you, Butch and Sundance? Is like the Pinkerton
who are those guys? Once I saw the guy in the white hat, I just kept running. Was that Lord Baltimore? Yeah, Lord Baltimore was chasing me from Butch and Sundance. So, and it's been, you get a different dynamic everywhere. I mean, I've worked in Mississippi where it's Mississippi State versus Ole Miss State. People want to know, why are Ole Miss and Mississippi State always on probation most of the time? Well, here's the reason why. Because if one school does well, the other school is going to dig and find something on them to put them on probation. It's been going on back and forth forever. I mean, forever. But that doesn't happen in Alabama and Auburn because they've been on probation, but they never turn each other in. There's a respect level of, of cheating. More than, I guess the best way to put it, that, if you got a player we didn't and you did something legal that we didn't do enough of, well, by God, you just beat us with a recruit. I mean, now you don't have to.
We have to up our game.
Yeah, now you don't have to do that. Now with NIL, you just kind of put the bid on the table and say, is this good enough? Or what does the other mean? How can I make my bid better than other school? Yeah.
Well, you did all these sports. I mean, like I said, you've written pro sports, the Saints in New Orleans, the Grizzlies in Memphis. You've done major events. But when you think about the college sports that you've covered so well, 4 decades in the South, what is it about the passion of the sports fan in the South? What's it like to write for them?
It's insane. I mean, you could write a bunch of objective stuff, but even some good things. But the first bad thing you write, you're the enemy of the state, baby. But I always tell people, I write exactly what I believe and what I think, and I don't write something I don't believe. And that's my opinion, and I don't write something just to get clicks. People always say, now, no, I don't like to get clicks. I write, what I think.
Right.
Very passionate, but there's always a storyline. There's always something going on. I mean, in the South, I learned that early. And I learned about characters early. I learned stuff like, I probably haven't told this story before. When I was working at LSU Sports Information, they had a thing called the SEC Skywriters. And what the Skywriters was, it was an original group of writers from the South. And this was before they had SEC Media Days. Mm-hmm. And so what they would do is the SEC would charter a DC-3 plane, a Leonard Skinner special, and all these writers would go on it, and they would fly from city to city and write stories and visit with coaches and players and drink a whole lot and party a whole lot. And it was one big, rolling, riding, drunk festival to cover all these schools. I never went on it. I always wanted to, but two things I knew about it. One, I knew they drank liquor because when I was at LSU, I worked as a sports information intern. And my job before the Skywriters came in was my boss, Paul Manasseh, Hall of Fame SID, said, "I need you to go to this place to pick up the liquor for tonight's media party. Mm-hmm. Take the company car." So I go over there and I back this thing up and open the trunk and I look at this little corner with this liquor, like a little corner of liquor. I said, "Okay, is that it right there?" He goes, "No, it's that whole wall right there." So what? Yeah, it's the whole wall. But I always wanted to go to the Skywriters tour because they had great stories and one of the best I ever heard. I wish I would have been there. One night they're partying somewhere in a hotel suite, and this guy they've never seen comes there before, and he is absolutely drunk out of his mind. And he basically just kind of lays down on this buffet table and passes out. Nice. And they look to see if he's breathing. I mean, they can't see if he's breathing. So they start dumping ice on him, just like all these beer chests start dumping his beer chest. Like we've got to wake him up. And then finally they just can't get him up. So they know they just leave. So the next morning they're standing around waiting to get on the plane, right? And they're waiting for the new pilot. Guess who the new pilot is? It's the guy on the table who was passed out drunk.
Oh my God!
They nicknamed him Crash. Yeah. So I learned at an early age there's a lot of characters, and some of the most famous ones probably was Bear Bryant.
Right.
My first run-in with Bear Bryant, I don't say run-in, but it was quite an event. When I was working for LSU Sports Information, ABC hired me to be a field producer for several of their games, and my job was to get teams on and off the field and report injuries to the producer, because at that time they didn't have sideline reporters per se. So you kind of report. And so, but in this game in Legion Field in 1978, Alabama comes on the field late for warm-ups, and ABC's whole thing is we do not want to come on the air when we're playing the national anthem. So everything has to run on time. So they're running late, and so this producer says, "You need to go get Alabama off the field." I said, "Okay, how do you want me to do that?" "Just go tell Bryant to get his team off the field." I went,
"Oh, sure, yeah, no problem."
I went, Bear Bryant?" I said, "Yeah, Bear Bryant. Just tell him." So I kind of walked down there, but I kind of want to do this. So I'm talking to the elephant, Al, the elephant. "Hey, you think you can get y'all's team off the field?"
Wait a minute, you're talking to the mascot?
Yeah, I'm talking about it. "You think you can maybe somehow get him off the field?" And I go back to my head. So I said, "I can't get it." He goes, "Have you talked to Brian?" I said, "No." I said, "Okay." So I walk up there, it's like walking to death row. I'm just go trudging up there, like I'm just dreading this. And I walk up there, and I'm just nervous as hell. Coach Brian, I'm Ron Higgins with ABC Sports, and the guys in the truck they would like for you to get off the field as soon as possible so we can get the game start on time. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And of course, he's standing there, as always, leaning against the goalpost, fedora cracked down, can't see his eyes, arms crossed, kind of leaning, feet crossed, like he always did.
Yeah, classic the iconic pose of a coach in college football. Right.
And I'm walking away. I'm hearing coach, "Damn, baby, babies." I said, "Okay, I did what I could." So right when I get to my headset, I hear, "Teams run off the field." Producer says,
Yes.
"Great job, man. What'd you do?" I just told the old son of a bitch to get his team off the field. That's what I did.
That's right. That's right. Take the credit.
The Gator Bowl between Ohio State and Clemson. And
Woody Hayes' last game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, what do you got, sir?
And so, first of all, the night before, we had to take lineups in underneath the stand because it was raining. So this is where I got my first taste of Woody. That he was a lot of times not a nice person, especially to like anybody in the media. And so we're taping lineups, and that means we're standing, we're having a guy right here, and he moves, he's another one. And so Woody's just standing right here, and he's just snarling at guys, get the gun out your mouth, blah, 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 this and that. And so finally we get everybody, and I say as pleasantly and as respectfully as possible, Coach Hayes, the guys in the truck, you're the last person we really appreciate. We'd like to shoot you now. Woody Hayes. Yeah. A lot of people like to goddamn shoot my ass, wouldn't they? Go, okay. I appreciate it. So next night, game night, I go, Ron, you got the Ohio State sidelines. I go, why?
Exactly. What did we do to deserve this?
He knows my face.
Yeah, he's not happy with you already. Right?
No, he goes, but just keep out of sight. Just try to keep out of sight. But I said, I'm 6'5". How do I keep out of sight? I'm 6'5" and I have blonde hair. How do I keep out of sight? Well, just try to keep out of sight. So I did. So, but towards the second half, I mean, I just stood up on the bench. I just stood up on the bench. They couldn't see. He was on the game. So I stood up on the bench right in front of me in the field. And so here it happens. Ohio State quarterback throws an interception. Clemson linebacker Charlie Bauman intercepts. He gets tackled right at Woody's feet. Bauman is looking at the referee, trying to find hold the ball up. What do you think he's taunting him? Grabs him by his shirt and hits him with the uppercut.
In Ohio, they say Charlie Bauman's face got in the way of Woody's fist.
It could have happened, but I don't think so because I was watching it 10 feet away, and I can tell you Charlie Bauman did not, let's go to the replay. Let's go to the, review. Let's go to the headset. There was no upward motion by Charlie Bauman except when Woody grabbed him by his jersey and hit with an uppercut.
Yeah, right in the neck, actually.
Oh, and bam. And so Bauman's just stunned. What to do. Immediately people are swarming. Woody's kind of hitting his assistants with a clipboard to get away. I'm like, this is insane. And so on TV, you can't really see this if you're looking at the monitor because it happened so much in front of the Ohio State bench. There were people standing up in front, so you couldn't see. I could see. And so the producer asked, what's going on? What's going on? I said, Woody, the guy intercepted the ball from Clemson, we just picked him up and punched him. He did what? He punched him. Are you sure he punched him? Yeah, he punched him. Are you sure? We can report it. I said, I saw him punch him. And of course, ABC didn't want to go with that. I'm just a 20-year-old college student who, they don't think they can trust or don't, I didn't see what I was supposed to see.
Yeah, let's face it, you're only 10 feet away.
I'm only 10 feet away watching it, but they were like, we can't do that. Just say,
right.
And so ABC never really reported on it right away, or maybe went back to it because they tried to go to the replay right away. The problem was that Keith Jackson, who's ever doing the game, may have been Eric Parsegan, may have been Frank Broyles. That's right, Keith. I didn't see anything. But what I think was Frank Broyles. But anyway, they didn't see because they were looking at the field and not the monitor. If they looked at the monitor, they might have seen it. Right. When they finally got a replay from the Jacksonville TV station, it was taped away. You could see it, but they didn't address it right away. And so all of America thought there was a plot. Why didn't they address it right away? Because when the producer asked for a replay, the replay machine malfunctioned and did not work. And so they had to wait for a while to get a replay. So,
you're right there when
history
right there.
happened.
Did you go to the locker room with the media?
I followed, me being a budding sports writer, I followed the Ohio State beat guys to the locker room, stand outside, and you saw the Ohio State president enter it, and he was not happy. You knew, and all the beat guys were going, they're going, he's done. And he was done. So
right.
I was kind of in there on that.
Yes, fired the next day. Woody Hayes' last game.
Fired the next day.
Down there in Jacksonville, Florida, and you were there for it. And you were at a lot of historic events. And really, let's face it, you grew up with Southern sports. Like you said, you were a budding sports writer at the time. You became a sports writer in 1979. But your days around Southern sports go back to when your father, Ace Higgins, was a sports information director at LSU from 1954 to 68. So you literally grew up with the SEC. What was it like having a father in that position and being a child who basically grew up at LSU Stadium?
it was when I became a sports writer. I just loved the whole feeling of being in a game and being in a press box and writing and seeing the camaraderie between the writers. Just the whole atmosphere. I loved it. And I just, and I learned to write really from watching my father write. But I learned to write because my father would moonlight at the Baton Rouge paper in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
He would help them put together their preseason college and high school football section, which was massive and kind of still is for this newspaper in Baton Rouge because it's a privately owned paper and they don't care about the money they spend. But he would help put the stuff together. So I would go up in the summer with him and up to the newspaper every night.
Like how old were you?
I was 7, 8 years old when I started. And it was like the greatest atmosphere. I just loved it. I loved just like watching guys write their stories and the whole atmosphere and, going downstairs and watching them do the hard press typeset, the old typeset stuff. Back in the day when it wasn't new. I loved everything about it. But I learned how to write. I would stand over guys' shoulders and see how they wrote their stories. And so I taught myself to type with 2 fingers and a thumb.
You still hunting peck?
Yeah, it's run and gun, actually. I kind of upgraded the speed to it.
Deadline, right.
I tried to take it in high school, but I really couldn't grasp it. The only thing I did good typing class in high school was that I could play the Hawaii 5-0 theme on the typewriter, basically.
All right, earworm now. Look out.
Yeah. I mean, you hit the shift with the bass drum. It works really well.
So, Ron, how old were you when you actually wrote a story for the newspaper?
8 years old. 8 years old.
You were 8 years old and you would write for the paper?
Yeah. My first time, the sports editor, Bud Montet guy, older guy, little guy, smoked a pipe, came up to me and said, "We're going to have a American League. The American League is bringing in their score sheets of the games, and they have who won at the starting pitcher. They have like the major hitters, and they have like home runs. Can you write us 6 or 7 paragraphs?" I said, "Sure." So I did that, and I was thrilled. There was the next day paper. I mean, there was there. I knew it was mine. It wasn't a name on it, so I knew it was mine. So I did that for several years, and finally, when I was about 13 or 14. My dad died when I was 12. He had a heart attack, and he died. But the business was in me by then. I mean, I was done. I was all in.
You had the bug, yeah.
And so the prep editor of the Advocate, Ted Costello, who's still living, he goes, "We'd like for you to go cover a game, and we'll give you a byline." I said, "You like my name on it?" "Yes, it will say Ron Higgins, the Advocate correspondent."
So how old are you now at this point?
I'm like 13.
13. You're going to get a byline.
Yeah, but I might. Yeah, but he goes, "So can she drive you to the game?" And I know a driver's license. "Can you drive you to the game and drive you back to the paper for you to write the story?"
Your mom's taking you to the game. I love it.
Yeah, drive me up. I should be done my own, so come get me. And I need to get to the paper and write this. Because then it was done by typewriter. It still wasn't done by computer. You still couldn't file anything over a phone unless you dictated it, which every once in a while we all have done because nothing worked. And some of today's youth don't understand that when you say that, "Yeah, I had to dictate." They go, "What do you mean dictate?" Well, you compose your story in your head and you dictate. And people were there taking. Yes, they were. So anyway, 13 years old, I walk into my game, cover my first game, walk into the dressing room after the game, see the coach, walk toward him. He goes, "Hey, who are you?" I said, "Ron Higgins." He goes, "Listen, hey, Ron, we need some more towels."
You need some more towels?
I said, "Well, Ron, we need some more towels." I said, "Coach, I'm not your manager." "Well, what are you doing in here?" I said, "I'm Ron Higgins with the Morning Advocate. I'm covering the game." "You're a sports writer." I said, "Yeah, Coach, I am." "So you're a sports writer?" I said, "Yeah." "Okay, ask me a question." "Okay, Coach, the first half, you really ran the ball well. I mean, you dominated running the ball, just had good offensive rhythm. The second half, it seemed like you broke your rhythm by trying to throw the ball. Was it something the defense did, or did you feel like you just wanted to pass and work on your passing because you felt like you had a lead, you can do that?" "You are a sports writer." I said, I told you I was.
He's getting grilled by Opie Taylor.
Exactly. So he didn't, it was like, that was the first introduction to that.
Well, you had the bug early and you
yeah.
never left. You're still writing. And you mentioned Bear Bryant. Bear was still Alabama's coach when you started in '79. And you have come across so many characters, especially in college football. What is it about college football that drives the South crazy?
I think it's because the North has been dominant. Pro football started in the North, and most of the teams start in the North early. The Southern football of the South didn't really start till basically the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There wasn't nothing, the Dolphins weren't around, the Saints weren't around, the Falcons, the Falcons. All this stuff kind of started in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
You probably had the Oilers start in the early 60s. But anyway, so the college teams were your pro teams.
Right.
And that's why there was an allegiance. And of course, a lot of these teams, when you went to these colleges, and a lot of these towns were not huge cities because everything revolved around the college. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's just kind of remained that way, even though there have been pro teams, even though the Saints came in, and God knows that people love the Saints, people still have that affiliation to LSU. They remember Billy Cannon winning the Heisman in 59 and making the Halloween run. Mm-hmm. They remember Joe Willie Namath of Alabama and the white shoes when he played. They all remember their football heroes because this was their pro team. And even now they are pro teams. There's still, I guess, a line of demarcation for a lot of people that they're going to love their colleges. And it's something that really, it's in some places like Alabama, where I worked for about a year and a half in Mobile, and I got a real indoctrination in Alabama-Auburn. It's a 365-day-a-year deal. Okay, guys, say this is thing. I mean, I don't know which fan this guy was of what school, but when I first went to work in Mobile, I lived across the bay in Fairhope, which is a wonderful little town. It's like living in Mayberry. Honest to God, it's like Mayberry on the bay. You leave your door open. The homecoming parade comes by. The sun's going down over the dock. You're like, is this real? So I go running down the bay one day, and I stop. And I'm sitting on the bench. And this guy sits on the bench beside me. And he kind of glances over at me. He goes, "You're that new sport writing fella." I said, "Yes, I am." He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Let me ask you something." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Are you Alabama or are you Auburn?" I said, "I'm neither." And I blew his mind. What?
That didn't compute,
said,
right?
What?
Right.
That's kind of the way it is. I mean, honest to God. And it's... When people recognize you in crazy places, it's kind of. I'm just so sick with this one because this never happened to you before. You go to a bathroom in a public restroom, and you're at this little trough doing your business, and in some places they'll have tear-outs of sports pages over the toilet. But some places have that where you can read. So here I am. I'm doing my business, and I see the guy right here, and he's looking up, and there's one of my columns. And I can see him going.
He's reading you at the urinal.
You hear me? You're up, but he's kind of looking at me like, is that him? is that him? And before he says, that's you, I go, yes, that is me, and nice to meet you. You don't have to shake my hand. And I'm proud to be a sports writer, but there are times that you would like to be not known. There was the time that I go to get a vasectomy. I'm getting my vasectomy.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
Okay. I'm getting a vasectomy. I am on the table. I am out there for the world to see. I have a laser pointed between my legs. There is smoke coming up. Things are happening. Oh. And my doctor, who knows I'm a sports writer, and I covered University of Memphis basketball, Larry Finch was coaching. So while he's doing this, it's like I'm on a sports talk show, and I'm going to answer questions. Hey, I got a question for you. That's good. I mean, I understand, there's so few in-game adjustments. Can this coach, can he cut it as the coach? Can he cut it? And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm like, right now, I just want you to cut it. That's all I want you to do. I'd appreciate it. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I just want to warn everybody. I've officially lost all control of this episode.
Okay.
It's great. So I'm just.
Okay. That's one. This is the second one. Okay. I'm covering the NBA Finals in Orlando.
Of course, there's a second one. Go ahead.
Of course. I'm covering the NBA Finals in Orlando. I'm getting on the plane and flying to Houston. Okay.
Right.
So for one of the few times in my life I get a first class upgrade. So I'm sitting there next to the guy in first class. And he's one of these guys who's chatted up. He's chat. And so I'm not saying much. I'm trying not to, reveal what I do. He's talking. And so finally, he goes, so what do you do? What do you do? I said, well, I'm a writer. Or what kind of writer? I write sports. So you're going to use, so are you covering the NBA Finals? I said, yeah, I'm covering the NBA Finals. But like, these first two games, I don't understand what's going on. I mean, the Magic gets swept. They don't get the ball in Shaquille. Nick Anderson, they can't make free throws. So he's going through all this stuff. And right about then, we're just taking off about 10 minutes into it, and you hear the plane go, boof. And you feel the plane dip a little bit.
What?
I'm like, you hear like a pop, and the plane kind of dips and levels out. I'm going, this ain't good.
Yeah.
And he goes, it's just nothing. And about that time, get this. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain. Listen, we've had a little engine problem. One of our engines is not working. And I'm thinking, a little problem? Yeah. But it's perfectly fine. We can fly on one engine. I'm thinking, sure. You only have one engine left to fly on. We're going to turn around and land in Orlando and change equipment. But it's like I said, just remain calm. And he pauses and he says, and then when the stewardesses give you directions for emergency landing, put your head between your legs. So we're turning around. I'm looking around. I see two priests. They're praying. People are praying. And this guy is still talking. Okay, so what do you think they can do when they're Houston? What do you think they can do? So we're coming for a landing. We're going 9,000 miles an hour because this guy can't let up on the throttle or the dip.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So our heads are between our legs. And our guys are good. Here's my guy. Well, I think it's about all stop the last one. I don't think the other ones are a problem. But
he's still debating the game?
He's still talking about the landing with one engine. It's all about top of lodge on. That's what they got to do. And I'm looking up, we hit the runway, and we're going 90 miles an hour. I see ambulances chasing us, fire trucks chasing us, and this guy's like, I just tell you, I think they can win one. I really do. They've done enough to win games. And so I'm one of the first guys off the plane, okay? Like the first guy, I'm the first guy to the counter, the Delta counter, with my new friend next to me, okay? Yeah, exactly. And there's 86,000 people behind me. And I get up there, and the Delta guy's rebooking me. He goes, wow. He goes, you need to get to Houston right away, or I can rebook. And the guy next to me goes, oh, he needs to get there. He's a sports writer. Oh, yeah. And the guy behind the counter goes, what's wrong with the Magic? Why can't they make free throws? Honest to God, I immediately turned around and waited for my plane and sat and wrote a column on it because it was too good to be true. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, that's one of my all-time favorite stories already. Well, I must attest that I have a fondness for the Southern sports fan. I grew up in Kentucky. I graduated from the University of Kentucky back in the 1980s, and I used to travel to the games and cover them as a young reporter. And even most of my career was pretty much in Ohio. One time I got sent down to Alabama, and I guess it was 2003 to spring when Mike Price's story exploded.
Oh, my God.
He was the Alabama coach for
oh, yes.
I don't know, 10 minutes or something. And it was a story where he got caught at a strip club and it's rolling, baby. So I actually went down there. I don't know why, but I'm down there with all these Alabama writers. And the news is breaking that Mike's been fired. And we're in Larry White, the sports information director. We're in the foyer of his office. And he's handing out the press release to us, to the writers. And he says, while he's handing it out, Lord have mercy, what a damn zoo. Well, I remember going through Tuscaloosa, and I was just going to iconic places like where Bear Bryant used to eat breakfast, and went to the museum that has his office recreated. Yeah. And actually went out to Mike Price's house with another writer.
Oh, my God, you're a bold man.
And we got around the gate to his driveway and walked up to the front door, knocked on the door, and I think it was his son answered the door. He was not happy at all, and he had these big dogs jumping around. He's holding them back, trying to keep them there, and we're trying to explain why we would like to talk to Mike, and he's not having any of it. And all of a sudden, one of those dogs broke loose and took off, running down the road, and I'm thinking Mike Price has lost his job. He's probably going to lose his wife, and now he's lost his damn dog because some sports writer from Ohio, of all places, shows up in Tuscaloosa. So I cost Mike Price's dog.
That's like hitting for the cycle there.
Yeah, it was not good. But, I mean, what I'm getting at is the passion down there, the craziness is just legendary. And you covered so many of these characters. I mean, I was thinking about football, and we talked some Alabama there, but I'm also thinking about Steve Spurrier at Florida. I mean, I think of Spurrier as a guy who like, you know, he became the guy in the 80s and 90s that really sort of started changing the SEC, right?
Yeah, he really did. He really pushed the SEC forward, and as it turned out on both sides of the ball, because, you know, he created an offense that he called the fun and gun. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like somebody was always open, they were always throwing, and at that time the SEC really had put most of the athletes on the offensive side of the ball, and he kind of knew that. There was nobody that cover guys in space.
Right.
It just wasn't happening. And he forced the SEC really to improve defensively, until Saban came along at LSU in 2000 when he got the LSU job. You know, that's when they started. You realize you have to recruit defensive backs who are just as athletic, who can cover these people in space, linebackers who can cover these people in space, and so Spurrier forced this change. But the best thing about Steve was, and what I still miss to this day, is that he was unfiltered. There was never a worry about bulletin board material, being read, because he was just going to say what he said.
He just didn't care. I mean, he was just going to say.
And look, he was honest. I mean, he jabbed his own team. It wasn't just him loving jabbing Tennessee. You can't spell citrus without UT. Or
right.
Or even when the Florida. When Tennessee, I guess, played the national championship or played the better bowl, and Florida went to the Citrus Bowl, Spurrier would say something like, I want to thank the Tennessee Vols for letting us use their winter home. There was always a debt, but the best part of him was he was honest about his own team. I mean, one year, they got beat at Mississippi State. They played awful. I think Shane Matthews had been Florida's quarterback. They were terrible. They got beat by at least 2 touchdowns or more. And, of course, the state fans run the field, tear the goalpost down, and after the game, the Spurs says, I don't know what they're doing that for. I mean, they need to wait till they beat a good team, before they do that.
Right.
The next year in Florida, it was like 56-0, something like that. And Florida's late in the game, throwing deep for a touchdown pass late in the game. And
hey, he was open. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Somebody Spurrier said, what was that for me, really? He goes, I'll tell you what was that for. We had a Steve manager last year. That game, they won, Brandon Field, and he was guarding our jersey. He got cold cocked. That touchdown was for our Steve manager.
Wow. He didn't forget, right.
But to the very end, he quit in midseason after an LSU game where they got beaten Baton Rouge. And he always told me, he goes, the day that I don't think that I'm doing my football team any good, that I'm not helping them, they're not listening to me, that I'm not doing good, I'm going to quit right then. And he did. He was true to his word. He was true to his word. And I miss him. He was the last of the dying breed. Yeah,
were there other characters in the South, coaches that come to mind besides guys who like Spurrier?
Most of them are basketball coaches. In the 80s, in the 70s, 80s, particularly in the SEC Media Day for basketball was like one big floor show. I mean, everybody was an entertainer.
Yeah, you had Wimp Sanderson, you had Sonny Smith.
You had Hugh Durham.
Right,
Georgia. Hugh, before Hugh went in and spoke to the press, he used to corner me and another writer from National, Joe Biddle. And he'd say, what's everybody talking about? What's the topic? Mm-hmm. And one year was athletic dorms being ruled out. So he goes in there and he opens up with this 10-minute rant on athletic dorms. It was the funniest damn stuff. It was like 10 minutes of
that
gold.
Didn't go over well in Kentucky. I know that.
Of gold. And at the end of 10 minutes, he goes, questions. And there's this one guy who covered Tennessee, and he asks every coach the same damn question. He goes, Coach, can you tell us who your starters might be? And you can see you hear him go, like, he went, you know, like,
read the room, dude.
But yeah, you had characters all throughout the league, and it made it fun.
Why do you think it was looser then? What was it about it that coaches weren't so afraid to say what was on their mind? I
guess you had a lack of corporate sponsors, and you had there wasn't a ton of money there. I mean, you didn't guys aren't being paid like they are. It wasn't for basketball, at least, it wasn't a big money business. Even then, the term NCAA tournament was kind of just getting cranked up. It was getting bigger, getting more important. So maybe there was more important plays in basketball. But I guess you just have these guys who were just absolutely, hilarious.
Well, I remember being a student newspaper reporter for the Kentucky Colonel at the University of Kentucky, and I started writing some basketball stories. And one of my assignments was to call Dale Brown, and I'm like, call Dale Brown? I'm like, I didn't think that was possible. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm just some kid at a student paper. And so, we get his office number, and I call it, and he answers the phone. Not the secretary.
Yeah.
Dale answers the call, and I'm like, I'm Todd Jones from the Kentucky Colonel, and then he's like, oh, great to meet you, Todd. What do you need? And we ended up talking, and I'm thinking, is this the way it is? Coaches just answer when you call them all the time? But no, it's not the way it was.
No,
it was people like Dale Brown who made it really special.
But like Dale Brown, a lot of times I'll sit there and be like, oh, I don't have a commenter like that. Okay, I'll call Dale. Ask Dale one question. 30 minutes later, hang up. Thank you, bye. Thank you, Dale. Like, you didn't like me another question. It was just like this, just the way he was. I saw him just the other night here at the last LSU home basketball game. And he looked great, just as funny as ever.
Yeah, so let's set this up. He coached at LSU for 25 years.
Yeah.
And he came from North Dakota, I believe.
Came from North Dakota.
So he comes in with this different perspective, and
he
took on Kentucky. He said, Kentucky, we're going after them.
Yeah, it's
LSU, and
Dale was always a guy he was fighting for the underdog, because he was an underdog his entire life. So he took on that mentality, and so. It was like always with we're going to fight. And finally he got enough players where he could play with Kentucky and actually, beat them. Not a lot, but they'll ever beat Kentucky a lot.
You probably covered the SEC basketball tournament where he didn't go to bed or something, right? That was some kind of crazy.
Yeah, the first time LSU had to go to the basketball tournament, SEC, and win 4 games in 4 days. Most times they play on a Friday, but they would never play all 4. Had to win 3 games just to get to the finals.
Right.
So he decides he's going to prove to his team. But you know what? Fatigue is a state of mind. It's a state of mind.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I'm going to stay up all night, every night for this tournament. Every night.
Dale.
All right. So they play Thursday, and we assume he hadn't slept. He looked like hell on the bench Friday. So Friday he's on the bench. They win again. So sometime Saturday morning, like about 4 o'clock in the morning, I get this call in my room. Marriott Marquis, downtown Media Hotel. I said, hello? Is this Mr. Higgins? I said, yes. Mr. Higgins, this is Mr. Schmidt with the hotel maintenance. I need you to check the barometric pressure. Remember right now, we're checking barometric pressure. I'm like, Dale, what are you doing?
I'm downstairs.
It was
Dale Brown.
Well, it was Dale. Dale, what are you doing? I can't sleep. I'm just downstairs with a bunch of media guys. Come on down to just tell stories. Tell stories to sunrise,
Wow.
But Dale was kind of his whole sleep pattern was different. Dale would stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning and read. That's what he liked to do. And then he'd get his 6, 7 hours and come to the office a little bit late. But he'd do stuff like, remember I covered LSU 1 year when I spent 1 year with the Advocate. When I came back as a full-time writer, I spent 1 year with the Advocate before I moved on. And that's a whole other story. But Dale would call me at 1 o'clock, and I'm like, hello? Ron? Dale Brown. Hey, Dale, how are you? I just want to tell you that you're doing a great job. That's all I want to tell you.
He's giving you his approval.
Yeah, thank you, Dale. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, just want to say. So,
until you ripped him in the next column. And then
yeah. I worked at LSU. I came back. I went to Shreveport for a few years. My first my first job out of college was Tiger Rag magazine, which is where the whole Bo Ryan thing happened. I mean, when it was 1979, and that was I graduated May of 79, my first year of college, and I went to work for Tiger Rag magazine, which was a weekly newspaper.
Let's set this up for our non-Southern fans. This is obviously not Bo Ryan, who was the Wisconsin basketball coach of note.
No, this is Bo Ryan,
the
who
football
was
coach.
North football coach, North Carolina State football coach.
Right.
Woody Hayes' disciple, and he was named football coach at LSU to replace the legendary Charles McClendon. He was named in December of 1979. So he gets named. He goes out recruiting, and like the first or second week of January 1980, he goes to Shreveport on a recruiting trip. He drives up there with a coach, another coach, Greg Williams, and they recruit all day in Shreveport. Mm-hmm. And late that night, Bo has to fly back on a private plane because he's got another date in Mississippi somewhere the next morning, and the other coach was going to drive back. So the other coach was the guy I had an interview with that morning. So I went to Bo's supposed to get on the plane and flies back. Next morning, I get to the football office to talk to this coach who was with Bo, and I walk in the office, and I hadn't seen TV, I hadn't heard the radio, they didn't have internet at this point.
Right.
And everybody's crying. I said, I'm sorry, because Bo's plane went down. Bo Ryan, Bo's plane crashed in the Atlantic Ocean. He's presumed dead. I went, what? And I said, what happened? He said, he went on a recruiting trip to Shreveport, and Greg put him on the plane, Greg Williams, the coach of Florida, and they think it was carbon monoxide poisoning, the leakage, and they fell asleep and flew up, and they just flew up for us, and ironically, right over Raleigh, North Carolina, where his wife and two kids were.
Yeah, that's what happened with Payne Stewart's plane. Yeah.
And I said, okay. They go, Greg's back there. I said, do you want to talk about that? I just want to go back and say I'm sorry, and right. we'll reschedule. And I said, hey, coach, Mitch Ron. He goes, hey, I back him back. No, just sit down. And I said, coach, I don't know what to say. And he just started talking, and I just let him talk. About this, how stunned he was, what happened. Just played it out play by play for me. Right. And I said, but I had a tape recorder once, so I knew I was taping it. It wasn't like I was sneaking.
Right.
And I went back and wrote the story, and won the first place in Louisiana Sportswriters contest, first place I ever won in a contest, any contest. But I was like 22, 23 years old, and I had no idea what to ask him. And the crazy thing about this, like I don't know what. 35, 40 years later, one day, ESPN had a special on the Bo line called The Bo You Don't Know on the FCC story. They came to me, and I talked about it. I kind of got choked up, actually, on camera. Right. But I actually tracked down Greg Williams all these years later to find out how he'd been. And we kind of replayed that night, and I learned some other things I didn't know. But, yeah, but I went to work for the Advocate for a year, and after a year, when I first got there, there was this writer on the staff named Joe Plantis who'd been there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And and Joe was kind of like he was the thorn in LSU's side. He was the guy who would criticize LSU. The Advocate was, at that time, was very much in bed with LSU. I mean, they wouldn't say, they wouldn't say boo. I mean, you couldn't be very critical ever. It was everything against your journalism principles that you didn't like. Mm-hmm. And so I became the columnist when the guy that left, John Adams, who's one of my favorite people in the whole world, he left to go work in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh Gazette, cover the Steelers. So I took over as columnist. So I start kind of pushing the boundaries of being critical. Right. And but when I got there, this writer, Joe Pass, said, you won't last a year here. I bet you $20 you won't last a year. And so...
Is this because you were being critical? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. Because he knew the atmosphere there. They couldn't take it back. So I started being critical, and the editor said, he goes, you can't write that one. I'm sorry. You can't do that. I said, what if I just write that one? He goes, no, you just got to. I said, what if I just refuse to write that way? He goes, well, we'll just reassign you. We'll put you on high school. Really? I said, yeah. Okay. You do that, I'll find a new job in 2 weeks. Right. And actually, it was 3 weeks, and that's when I went to Memphis for the commercial appeal. Because they had contacted me before I took the Advocate job. I was at the Shreveport Journal, for a brief period.
Right, because you're there to be a journalist, not a cheerleader.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing.
But I stayed an extra week just to collect the bet. Because the day I said, Joe, it's my last day. I said, Joe, it's 1 year to the day. And I looked at it and he went, son of a bitch. Pretty sure his pocket gave me a $20 bill.
$20. I mean, that was
back then it was huge. It was like,
back in the day.
So just to get the bet. But then I went to Memphis. It was the best move of my career, the best move I could ever make. I got to cover everything in the world. I got to not just SEC, but I covered the entire SEC. Got to know the whole league. I covered Memphis. I covered Olympics. I covered Final Fours. I covered everything. But the Olympics were fascinating. I mean, just to cover it, be around the world with different writers and different events and a whole different set of new stories.
What was it like for you as a writer to cover the Olympics? Because not everybody enjoys that. Some people really, really enjoy covering the Olympics. Did you like it? What was it like to cover as a journalist?
It was like 12-hour days every day. Get up and go all day and do it again. It's like this big treadmill. But you just kind of absorb stuff. I remember before I went and did it, my first one was in Seoul. I was kind of apprehensive. I've never covered some big sports before. I didn't know what team handball was.
Right.
It's kind of a combination of, I don't know, basketball, soccer with goalies. I mean, baseball, throwing the ball. It was this crazy sport. But I kind of learned as I went along, and I really got to love it. But it was more the experience of seeing different athletes that you never knew from around the world. I still consider one of the greatest basketball shooters I've ever seen, a guy from Brazil named Oscar Schmidt.
Oh, yes, right. Bob Ryan spoke about him on our show.
It comes up Oscar. I said, Oscar, what's a good shot to you? What's a good shot? He goes, for me, a good shot can be taken from anywhere at any time.
Oh, hell yeah.
and pretty much he was that way.
You also got to see Luc Longley, too, right? Don't you have a
Luc Longley? Yeah,
you told me that you had a pretty interesting.
Luc Longley
at the Olympics.
Yeah, so Luc Longley, I think he's playing in America. I can't remember who he's playing, but I'm
he was an Australian center. Yeah,
Australian center, played for the Bulls. Yeah,
right.
Well known. This really a big, affable guy, pleasant human being. And so I go to talk to him after the game, and there's this delay. I'm like, how much delay? And probably one of the Olympic people come out and say he's in drug testing right now. It'll take a little bit longer. Just it could be at least another 30 minutes. And it was already 30 or 40 minutes. I'll wait until he comes out. He sits down with him and goes, "Hey, mate." So how you doing? He goes, "Mate, I need a favor."
Favor?
Okay.
Need a favor for what?
He goes, "Mate, I had a drug test and I was dehydrated, so I had to get hydration. So I've drunk a couple of 6-packs of beer, so I'm kind of drunk right now. So if I say something stupid, would you kind of clean it up for me?" I said, "Sure, Luke, got it." Yeah. Well, it was really kind of charming.
Luke, you just got to give me a beer or two.
It was kind of charming. I'm kind of drunk.
Well, you played basketball in college, Ron. So, I mean, you played at Angelina Junior College in Lufkin, Texas. And then did you walk on at LSU after you left there?
I walked on LSU. I hurt my knee my second year at Angelina. Okay. And I kind of rebuilt everything.
So what type of player were you, Ron?
I was a scorer. That's what I do. I scored. Yeah. I was a shooter. I was 6'5". Sometimes they set me in the post. I shoot fades. I had good range. If I had a 3-point line back then, I would have killed it.
You were like the Oscar Schmidt of the South.
Yeah, a good shot anywhere, anytime. Except in the South. I'm shooting that sucker from anywhere.
Right. You grew up, when your father was the sports information director at LSU, when Ace was the SID, Pete Maravich was the basketball player at LSU. So you grew up watching a shooter.
It was absolutely magical. I mean, and it's like I tell people, the scoring was ridiculous because he shot a ton. But when you think a guy that averaged, he really set a record that I truly know that it will be here 200 years from now. Nobody's going to ever average 44.2 points a game ever. It's just not happening. I mean, we'll never, for a career.
A 4 to 3-point shot. Think about that. 44.2.
Shot. This was his 3 varsity years. He probably would have gone up to over 45 or 46 had he had the freshman year, but it was in freshman basketball. But when he first got to LSU, my father said, hey, we got a new basketball coach, Press Maravich. He says, yeah. I said, really? He's got a son named Pete. He says he's going to be the best basketball player anybody's ever seen. He goes, well, I looked at the guy because he's so skinny. I'm like, that guy? I mean, that guy's going to be the best ever? And then the first game as a freshman, that guy went out and got like 66. And then started throwing these crazy passes that were straight out of the Globetrotters playbook or beyond that he created.
Yeah.
And that was the magic of him. You went there. Maybe some fans weren't there to see the scoring because LSU fans got so spoiled. They come out of the game like, man, Pete was awesome. He only had like 38. He just didn't play well. But you went there for the passing, and it's just like every fast break was an adventure. What the hell's going to happen now? Even when he wasn't trying to, create a pass, he would just create one. One time he threw a behind-the-back bounce pass behind his back to his left and accidentally hit his left heel and bounced back up to the guy on the right and caught it and laid it in. I'm like, how?
That's amazing.
It's just, he threw passes that he could call violations for, and he'd tell the ref, how can you call that? You've never seen it before. And it got to the point, in every pregame warm-ups, they would come out and they'd have a drill. They put him at the top of the key, and throw him the ball, and he'd do stuff like spin the ball between his legs and catch it behind it, all this fast stuff, low power type stuff. And then, two players would cut past, and he'd throw like a blind pass to one, they'd lay it up. I mean, it was a show. They knew how to market it, but wasn't really marketed. But even today, I mean, one thing I discovered when I went to the NBA was how much influence he had on the NBA players that I never thought he had influence on. Like, I remember when I worked in Memphis, I covered the NBA with the Grizzlies. And so you see former players like an all-star guy, like a George Gervin or an Isaiah Thomas.
Right.
Isaiah Thomas told me once, he goes, Pete Maravich had a lot of influence. I said, why Pete Maravich? I said, he's didn't play much longer after you were in college. I mean, how? Right. He goes, I loved his whole game. Like his passing. He goes, I loved when he'd come down and pull up and stop and pop shot. It'd be off bounds. And before he released the ball, he would just start turning the other way because he knew it was going in. He goes, so he goes on the playgrounds. We nicknamed him Maravich. Because he was he was a bitch. He goes, we come down, I go up and shoot a shot and shoot and start running down the court and going, Maravich.
Yes. Yes. It was a show. I mean, guys like Steve Spurrier, Dale Brown, Whip Sanderson, Sonny Smith, these guys, they kind of had a twinkle in their eye because they knew there was more to this than what you might think. And they made it fun to cover, right?
Characters make stuff fun. That's what long after you quit this business, you might remember games, but you remember characters more than anything else. I remember, there's this Team USA Baseball made Memphis their training base for the Olympics. That's when they had college. This was Ron Frazier was a manager who was one of the hilarious people of all time, University of Miami. A lot of great stories about him. But the Team USA would have to have open tryouts before they invited people. You had open tryouts. Right. So here it is. It's in Millington, Tennessee, just north of Memphis. They have tryouts on this field. I'm going out there, and I see this guy at shortstop. It's 9,000 degrees. It's June. It is absolutely boring. And this guy out there running around behind the shortstop outfield, shagging balls like an older guy. He's got this full flannel uniform, a wool flannel uniform.
What is this, 1924? What is it?
Yeah, I think this guy's nuts. So I found out. I said, you've got to, I found a PR guy. I said, you've got to tell me, who is that guy? His name is Lonnie Altman. I said, where did he play this? He said he never played baseball. I said, he's like 48 years old. I said, okay. I said, is he, I know y'all house, some of these people come in like a hotel. Is it mean? He goes, no, he's living in his van in the parking lot. I said, it was just getting better and better. I said, he's living in a van in the parking lot. He said, yeah, he'll be out there after this is all over. So I said, oh, this is awesome. So it's over, I'm good drinking bar, and he goes to the van. I go knock on the van sliding door. I said, Lonnie, I'm Ron Higgins with the commercial appeal here in Memphis. I'm doing a story in tryouts, and I noticed your unique uniform, and you're 40 hours. I just got to know why you were doing this. Can I come in and come in and have a seat? And he goes, sure. So I get in his van, I look around, he's got all his clothes in there, and, baseball books and extra gloves. And I look on the dashboard, and there's this framed picture of this old lady on there. Oh. So I said, Lonnie, why are you doing it? He goes, I always wanted to be a baseball player. I always wanted to be. I always devoted my time to other stuff in my life. And, I never got married. I was single, and I was, and my mother loved baseball. And she also said, Lonnie, why don't you ever try for baseball? And I never had the chance. He goes, but when I saw this, I thought, I know I'm not going to make the team, but it's a chance for me to try out at least a day or two. And she'll know that and he pointed to a picture. He goes, she'll know I tried to be a baseball player. And I'm like, oh man, wow. It was awesome. I mean, it's like, you don't know. That's the amazing thing about sports writing is that you don't know what you're going to stumble into. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's the sheer gold. Like in an SEC basketball tournament, there's this guy named Alvin Lee who played basketball for Alabama. He's dead. He's dead now. Got arrested. So, but the first game of the SEC tournament, he shoots horrible. He's a guard. He shoots horrible. Next game, he lights it up. I mean, everything's going in. So I go in the dressing room with myself and Joe Bill of Nashville, Tennessee, and we go to his locker. And Alvin, got to ask you, tonight you're on fire. You just turned it around. I mean, the other night you couldn't make a shot. I said, what happened? Did you just get back in the shoot around and really work on what you're doing? Just really work on the stroke? He goes, no, man, I got my girls back.
What?
Like, girls. And I'm thinking, the divorce proceeding? I didn't want to say that you were divorced. Right. And both Joe and I said, kind of girls. He goes, yeah, I got my old kicks back, my girls. And he holds up this basketball shoes, and they're worn the hell out. just worn the hell out. He goes, last night I had some new kicks on my feet, killing me, man, killing me. Tonight I got my girls back. They sticky, but I love them.
and he was right?
He was right.
He got his favorite shoes on his feet, and he lit it up.
I'm like, thanks. Walk around the corner and just clap to laugh for 5 minutes.
That's awesome.
You can't make this stuff up.
That's right. That's
what, I guess, of all the bad things about sports writing, the lousy hours, the bad meals, the fact you work insane hours, the fact that you're, all of a sudden you tell your wife you gotta go do this when you can't do something with her and she's managed you for 3 days, and all that stuff somehow gets worth it when something like that happens. Mm-hmm. It's why I still do this. Right. It's what I have journalism students. I have kids ask me, in the journalism class, what makes your job? Why have y'all done this all these years? I said, you know what? Because I can wake up in the morning and I think I know what's going to happen, but then all hell breaks loose and it's glorious. Exactly. Absolutely glorious. You just never know when a great story is going to come along, and it's evident in this episode, the great stories you've shared with us. It's been such a pleasure to shine a light on all these 40-plus years that you have been writing about sports down in the South. I've really, really enjoyed this, Ron. Some of these stories were fantastic. I just thank you so much, and I wish you the best as you continue to run and gun on the keyboard, as you say. Thank you so much. I enjoy being with y'all. Follow the show. It's tremendous. I'm honored to be a part of it, Ron Lee, and thank you for asking me to have me on. Thanks, Ron. Take care. Thanks for listening to Press Box Access. You can find us here with a new episode every other Wednesday. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. We'd love for you to review us. 5 stars would be nice. Follow us on social media. Drop us an email at pressboxaccess@gmail.com. And be sure to spread the word. Everyone is welcome here. This has been a production of Evergreen Podcast. A special thank you to executive producers Michael D'Aloia and Gerardo Orlando, producer Bill Huffman, and our audio engineer Nathan Corson. I'm your host, Todd Jones. It's closing time. Rock on.
Coming up on 5 Minute News, I'm Anthony Davis. You might think it's partisan because maybe it's critical of one side or the other, but it's not. It's just the truth. And I think that's also something that's kind of unusual for Americans listening to the radio or to podcasts, because the news landscape in the States has been so partisan for so many decades. So 5 Minute News is verified, truthful, independent, unbiased, and essential world news daily.